The blind outcast. The wind moves slowly across the dry ground of planet Zera. The sky is dark with purple clouds and glowing stars. Strange animals cry in the distance, but no one answers. Far away from the city, a girl walks alone. Her name is Selah, and her feet are bare and cold. Her long silver hair moves in the wind. Her white eyes stare at nothing because she cannot see. Selah was born blind. Her people said she was cursed by the sky. They feared her because she could not see like others. They said she was weak and broken. They pushed her out of the village when she was just a child. Since that day, she lived alone in the silent desert. Her only friends were the wind and the stars. Even without eyes, she could hear everything. She could hear the birds above the mountains. She could hear water under the rocks. She could hear the stars singing in the sky. She did not know why, but the stars always sang to her. Their music made her feel less alone. One night, the stars sang a strange song. It was not soft and warm like before. It was loud and sharp and full of fear. Selah stood still and listened. There was a scream in the sky, a scream of fire and metal. She turned her face toward the sound. She heard a crash far away beyond the dark hills. Something had fallen from the sky, something big and alive. Her heart beat faster. She took a deep breath and started walking. She did not know what she would find, but her feet moved on their own. Step by step she moved through the cold sand. The night air grew hot like fire. She smelled smoke and metal after. Sometimes she reached a place where the ground was broken. Pieces of something were spread all around. She touched one and felt warm, smooth metal. It was not Zerian. It was not made by her people. It was from the stars. She walked carefully and used her hands to feel the way. Suddenly she heard a sound. It was not the wind or the stars. It was a voice like hers, but different. "Hello, is someone there?" It was a deep voice. It was tired and weak, but it was real. It was Aleph. Selah froze. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She had not spoken to anyone in years. "Please, help me." The voice was closer now. She followed it and found a body. It was warm and heavy. "Not Zerian, not like her. Are you hurt?" she asked slowly, her voice soft like the desert wind. The man moved. He gasped and spoke again. "Who are you?" "I am Selah." She said, "Who are you, Ile?" The man said, "I am from Earth. My ship crashed. I think my leg is broken." Selah knelt beside him. She touched his face with her fingers. She felt his eyes, his nose, his lips. She saw him with her hands. His skin was smooth. His breath was slow. "But he was alive." "You came from the stars," she said. "Yes," he whispered. "And you cannot see." "No." She answered, "I was born blind. My people left me here." "Why?" "Because they are afraid of what they do not understand." Eli was quiet for a moment. Then he reached for her hand. It was warm and gentle. "Maybe we can help each other," he said. Selah felt something strange in her chest. A light, a small warm light. Not from the stars, not from the sky, but from inside her. She smiled for the first time in many years. Far above them, the stars kept singing. But now the song had changed. It was full of hope and danger because something else had seen the crash too, and it was coming. The sky was quiet now, but the wind still carried smoke through the air. Selah sat beside the strange man near the broken ship. The heat from the metal warmed her skin. As the night grew colder, she listened to his breathing and the tiny sounds of machines still trying to work inside the wreck. Eli spoke slowly, and his voice was full of pain and wonder. He said he came from a planet called Earth, where people lived in tall cities and flew in great ships like birds. His ship had lost control during a storm, and he had fallen from the sky like a star. Selah could not see his face, but she could feel his heart in every word he said. There was no fear in her now, only questions. What did Earth look like? What were humans like? Why had no one ever told her the stars could bring someone like him? Eli asked about her world and her life in the desert. She told him how her people had feared her blindness, how they had said her eyes were cursed, how they had sent her away when she was just a small child with no voice strong enough to fight back. Eli listened without interrupting. He did not say sorry. He did not pity her. He simply sat and listened, and to Selah that felt like the kindest thing anyone had ever done. As the night passed, he tried to stand, but his leg gave out, and he fell back with a cry. Selah moved to help him and held his arm with care. She guided him to a piece of metal shaped like a bench and helped him rest. He told her that inside the ship there were tools, machines that could heal and repair. If he could reach them, he might fix his leg and send a signal for help. Selah nodded and asked if she could see the tools. Eli looked at her blind eyes and hesitated. She touched his face again and said she did not need to see with her eyes. She could feel and listen. She could learn. They moved slowly into the broken ship. Eli limped and leaned on her shoulder. Inside the ship the air was thick and full of strange smells. Selah felt smooth walls, cold floors, blinking lights and wires like vines. Eli handed her a small object. It was round and warm and hummed softly. He said it was a med unit. It could scan and repair small wounds. She gave it back and guided his hand to his leg while the machine worked. Eli looked at her and asked a question. "Do you want to see?" Selah froze. She had never been asked that before. Not truly, not with hope. She nodded once. Eli said he had a small tech lens. It was made to fix damaged vision. It had never been tested on Azerian, but it might work. He opened a metal box and took out a tiny device. He explained how it would sit behind her eye and connect to her brain. It would not give full sight, but maybe light, maybe shapes, maybe color. Selah held the lens in her palm. It felt like a dream, a piece of the stars small enough to hold in her hand. "Do it," she whispered. They worked in silence. Eli cleaned the area around her eye and used a soft tool to place the lens. It was not painful, only strange. A cold feeling like water moving inside her head. Then everything changed. First came light, not from the sky, but from within. A golden glow filled her mind. Then shapes blurred and danced in front of her. She cried out, and Eli caught her hand. "Do not be afraid," he said. "It is working." She blinked and saw something for the first time, a face, his face. Brown hair, kind eyes, a tired smile. Tears fell from her eyes and she laughed. It was not perfect, but it was real. She could see Eli laugh too, and said, she looked surprised. Selah looked around the broken ship and saw colors she had only heard in dreams. Blue lights, red screens, silver walls. But before she could speak, a sound echoed outside, a deep rumble like thunder mixed with fire. Eli grabbed a scanner and his face turned dark. "Something is coming," he said. "Not my people." Selah turned her new sight toward the outside world. Flashing lights moved through the desert, machines with wings and voices that spoke in her native tongue. Her people, hunters. They had followed the light from the crash. They were coming for Eli, and maybe for her too. Eli reached for his tool bag. Selah reached for his hand. This time she would not run alone. This time she would not be afraid. The stars had brought them together, and now the stars would guide their next move. Selah held Eli's hand as the ground shook under their feet. Outside the broken ship, the sound of engines grew louder. Lights flashed across the night sky, and the voices of Zerian soldiers echoed in the air. They were searching, and they were close. Eli looked at Selah and spoke with a calm voice. "We have to move now. They will not care that I am hurt. They will not ask questions." Selah nodded and helped him gather the small bag of tools. He placed the med unit, the scanner, and the lens kit inside. His steps were slow but steady. Selah guided him through a narrow exit at the side of the ship. The cold desert wind touched her face, and the sky above her seemed brighter. Now she could see shapes. She could see color. The stars blinked like small fires, and the mountains stood like silent giants. They walked quickly away from the crash. Their feet moved across sharp rocks and dry sand. In the distance, red lights moved in a pattern like a hunting pack. Selah knew this part of the desert better than anyone. She turned toward the old hills where the stone caves waited in silence. She remembered the stories her mother once told her. Long ago, their people hid from sky storms in those caves. Maybe the past would protect them again inside the cave. The air was dry and cool. Eli leaned against the wall and caught his breath. Selah looked around, and her new sight began to adjust. The cave was wide and deep. Strange marks covered the walls. Symbols she had felt before with her hands now glowed faintly in blue. "What are these?" Eli asked as he looked at the glowing marks. "Old language," Selah said, "from before the Great War. Before my people became afraid of difference, she stepped closer and touched the wall. Her fingers moved over the symbols, and a warm light followed her touch. It was like the cave remembered her, like it was waking up. A soft hum filled the air. The ground shifted slightly, and a hidden door opened in the back of the cave. A gentle light came from within. Eli stood up and followed Selah through the passage inside. They found a room full of ancient technology. Crystals floated in the air, and machines rested in silence. In the center of the room stood a tall mirror made of silver glass. It shimmered with light and moved. Like water, Relay walked around the chamber and examined the machines. These are not primitive. They are advanced, maybe older than my own tech. He turned toward Selah with wide eyes. I think this is a healing chamber, maybe a full restoration pod. Selah felt the air around her grow warm. The symbols on the walls now shone bright. She looked into the mirror and saw her own reflection for the first time. Silver hair, pale skin, white eyes glowing with new life. She looked human, but not Zirian, but not. She was something else, something more. Eli scanned the machine with his tools. He read the signals and his hands moved with care. He found a place where two energy lines crossed. One line pulsed in a pattern he could read. The other was unknown. He looked at Selah. I think this machine is waiting for two signals, yours and mine. It needs Zirian code and human code. It was made for both. Selah stepped forward. Why would such a machine exist? Eli shook his head slowly. Maybe your people were once connected to others in the stars. Maybe this world was not always alone. Selah placed her hand on the platform. The light grew stronger. Eli placed his hand beside hers. The light turned golden. The machine woke up. A voice spoke in both their minds. Welcome, you are chosen. You carry the light of two worlds. Eli looked at Selah and smiled. Are you ready? She nodded. If this can give full sight, if it can give truth, then I am ready. They stepped into the chamber together. Light surrounded them like warm water. It touched their skin, their minds, their blood. Memories not their own flowed through their thoughts. Stars, planets, voices from long ago. Selah saw herself as a child, not alone, but surrounded by others like her. She saw a city in the sky. She saw humans and Zirians working side by side. Then she saw fire, war, fear, separation. The light pulled away slowly. The chamber opened with a soft sound. Eli stepped out first. His eyes were brighter, his body stronger. He felt Selah stepped out behind him. Her eyes no longer white, now clear and filled with color. She could see everything. She laughed and cried and looked at Eli's face with full sight. You are real, she said. You are beautiful. Before they could speak again, a sharp sound broke the silence. A scanner beeped. Movement outside the cave. The Zirian soldiers had found them. Ale grabbed his bag. Selah stood tall and calm. They would not run now, not anymore. They were ready. Asterisk. The wind outside the cave howled like a warning across the wide desert. Dust rose into the night, and lights flickered like angry stars above the hills. The sky was not calm anymore. It had become a hunter's sky. Selah stepped out of the chamber and looked into the darkness with her new sight. Every stone, every shadow, every color was clear. Her eyes had opened, and now they held the power of light. Eli stood beside her with the tool bag on his shoulder. His steps were stronger and his breath steady. The healing chamber had done more than fix their bodies. It had awakened something inside them, something ancient and powerful. They moved through the tunnels of the cave toward the entrance. The ground trembled under the weight of machines landing above. Eli held a scanner in his hand and read the signals. 3 ships, 12 soldiers, standard Zirian formation. They are looking for me, he said quietly. But they will take you to. Selah nodded with calm. I know how they think. They believe I am still weak, still cursed. They will not expect me to stand. The last tunnel opened into a narrow cliff that looked down over the landing site. 3 dark ships rested like insects on the sand, their wings folded and their lights blinking. In Zirian soldiers in black armor moved across the ground in silence. They held weapons shaped like claws and moved in perfect lines. One of them stepped forward, a tall figure with a gold mark on his helmet. That is Commander Dren. Selah whispered. He was the one who led the council when I was cast out. He said my blindness made me unclean. Eli looked at her face. His voice was calm but firm. Then let him see you now. They waited in silence as the soldiers searched the area. One of them found the hidden cave entrance and sent a signal. The rest of the squad moved toward the rocks. Eli and Selah stepped down slowly and stood in the open. The wind caught Selah's silver hair, and the stars above lit her eyes. Commander Dren raised his weapon. His voice echoed through the air. You do not belong here. The human is a threat, and you are still marked by the old curses. Selah raised her head. She did not blink. She did not move back. She let them see her eyes. I can see now. She said the curse was a lie. The blindness was a gift. It brought me to the stars. It brought me to truth. Dren lowered his weapon slightly. He looked confused. You were healed by him, by this outsider, by this invader. Eli stepped forward. I am not your enemy. I came here by accident, but I will not leave her alone. The soldiers moved closer, their weapons charged. With bright light, Eli reached into his bag and held a device shaped like a disc. It pulsed with the same golden light from the healing chamber. This is your history, he said. This light belongs to your people. It was lost, and now it is found. Dren hesitated. The soldiers around him looked at each other. They had never seen this light. They had never heard these words. Selah stepped closer and lifted her hand. A soft glow appeared from her palm. It danced like fire and moved like water. She did not know how she did it, but it came from her. From her blood. I am Zirian, she said, but I am more. This power is not a curse. It is our future. One of the soldiers lowered his weapon. Another stepped back. Dren shouted, you are still an outcast. You are still nothing. Selah raised her voice. I was nothing because you feared me. Now I stand with sight and power and truth. Eli held her hand, and the light between them grew brighter. It wrapped around them like a shield. The ground beneath them shimmered with the same energy. From the cave, the symbols from the walls began to appear in the sand. Old language, old power. Dren gave the signal to fire, but the weapons stopped working. Each light faded. Each machine turned silent. The ancient power had awakened fully. It knew Selah. It knew Eli. It would not allow harm. The soldiers stood frozen, their eyes wide, their hands shaking. Selah stepped forward one last time. Go back to your city. Tell them the truth is alive. Tell them the cursed girl can see. Tell them the stars have returned. Did not speak. He turned and walked back to his ship. The other soldiers followed. The ships lifted into the air without a sound. They vanished into the night sky. Eli and Selah stood in the quiet that followed. The desert was still again, but everything had changed. She looked at him and smiled. He looked at her with wonder. They were not hunted anymore. They were chosen together. The desert was silent as the ships disappeared into the sky. No fire, no noise, no soldiers remained, only the soft wind and the sound of stars watching from above. Selah stood on the cliff and looked at the open sky, her eyes clear, her breath steady, her heart calm. She felt no fear. She felt no weakness. She felt something new, belonging. Eli sat on a rock nearby with the scanner in his hand. The golden light still hummed inside the device. A quiet voice whispered through the machine. It was not words but memories, images, sounds, pieces of a past not written in any book. Selah walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down. She saw lines in the sand, symbols, like the ones in the cave, glowing faintly. She knelt and touched them. They pulsed. With energy, her fingers followed the curves and corners. They formed a message. Eli stepped beside her. What do they say? Selah closed her eyes and let the meaning come to her. It is a path, a map to a place hidden long ago where the first light was. Keptili helped her rise. Then let us follow it. Whatever this light is, it is part of you. Part of us. They walked through the desert for hours. The sky changed from deep blue to gold as the sun returned. The heat rose around them, but the light in Selah's palms stayed cool and strong. Every step led them closer to something ancient. At last they reached a narrow canyon. Sharp rocks stood like guards at the entrance. The map in the sand ended here. Selah placed her hand on the wall, and it opened a hidden door made of crystalline stone. Behind it was a staircase leading into darkness. They stepped inside together. The air was dry but clean. The walls shimmered with soft light as they moved deeper. Old voices seemed to echo from the stones. Not ghosts. Not machines' memories. The staircase led to a wide chamber filled with light. Floating orbs danced in the air. Each orb showed a moment. A story, Xerians and humans working side by side, sharing knowledge, building cities, healing the sick. A time when both worlds were one. Eli walked between the orbs with wonder in his eyes. So it is true, there was peace. There was unity. Selah watched a vision of a Xerian child learning from a human teacher. The child had white eyes just like hers, but no one was afraid. No one turned away. She reached for the orb, and it dissolved into her hand. The energy moved through her skin and into her mind. She saw the truth long ago. The Xerians were part of a great alliance with Earth and other planets. They shared light, technology, memory, power. But fear grew when some Xerians began to change. Their eyes turned white and they heard the stars. Many believed it was a disease, but it was evolution. A gift, not a curse. Selah saw the council hiding the truth. They erased history. They cast out the white-eyed children. They closed the gates to the stars and buried the light. She fell to her knees. Tears filled her eyes. All the pain, all the silence, all the years of exile. It had all come from a lie. Eli knelt beside her. What did you see? She told him everything. The alliance, the fear, the betrayal, and the light. The true power that lived in those once called Kirstig. You are the future. Eli said, you carry the voice of both bloodlines. You are the bridge. Selah looked around the chamber and saw a platform in the center. She stepped onto it. The floor lit up beneath her. A ring of symbols appeared around her feet. She heard a voice. Soft, clear, ancient, daughter of light, bearer of truth, will you awaken the stars? Selah closed her eyes. Yes. The chamber began to glow. The walls shifted and opened. A beam of light shot into the sky from the canyon. It reached beyond the clouds, beyond the atmosphere, into space. On distant satellites, machines turned on for the first time in centuries. Beacons lit across the stars. A signal traveled from Zyra to Earth and beyond. Eli looked up and smiled. They will see it, your people and mine. They will know the truth now. Selah stepped down, and the orbs gathered around her. Their light flowed into her, not to control, but to guide. She held out her hand to Eli. He took it with a steady grip. They walked back toward the canyon entrance. Not as fugitives, not as prey, but as messengers of truth. The past no longer hidden, the future no longer silent, and the stars above sang once more. Asterisk. The stars above were no longer quiet. They shimmered with color and sound, as if they had waited for this moment, for the truth to rise, for the silence to end. Selah and Eli stood at the mouth of the canyon where the beam had reached the sky. The signal was sent. The message was clear. The past had returned, and it was alive. The air around them buzzed with energy. A new energy, something not just ancient, something reborn. Eli looked at the small scanner in his hand. The signal was moving fast across planets, across networks forgotten by time. They will come, he said with calm in his voice. They will come because this light has not spoken in ages. Selah nodded, her eyes clear and steady, not with fear, with purpose. The platform beneath the canyon had not gone dark. It still pulsed like a heart, as if it waited for more, as if it had only just begun. Selah stepped toward it and placed her hand on the center. The ground shimmered and opened. A second chamber appeared below, hidden until now, guarded by time and truth. Eli followed her down the glowing steps. The walls of the chamber were covered in more symbols, but these were different. Not just Xerian, not just human. They were both. At the center stood a device shaped like a star. Its edges moved slowly. Its light was soft but deep. It called to them both. This is the source, Eli said, not just memory, creation itself. Power beyond what we know. Selah touched the surface of the star. Images burst through the room. Xerian healers using the light to restore lost limbs. Human engineers using the light to rebuild broken worlds. Children of both races learning with the same mind and heart. But then came the darkness, the fear, the division. The images faded and the light dimmed. This star needs balance. Eli said it was never meant to belong to one world. It needs two. Selah understood everything they had done, every step, every truth had led here. She turned to Eli. Your DNA, your energy, can it link with mine again? He nodded. Without hesitation, he stepped beside her and placed his hand on the starlight. Burst from the center, it wrapped around them in gold and white and silver. It moved through their skin, through their blood, through their thoughts. They were no longer just two beings from two worlds. They became one voice, one memory, one bridge. The chamber shook, but it was not fear, it was awakening. Their feet lifted from the ground, not by force, by connection. They saw visions together. The future cities in the sky. Humans and Xerians building together, a world without blindness, without silence. Light pulled back slowly and set them gently on the floor. Eli looked at his hands. They shimmered for a moment, then faded to normal. He turned to Selah and saw her. Eyes filled with tears, not of pain, but joy. I saw it. She said, I felt everything. The fear, the hope, the healing, all of it. Eli reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. It is not just your gift now, it is ours. They walked out of the chamber together. The star device quiet, but alive. It had accepted them. It had given them its gift. Outside the canyon, the sky was different. No longer cold, no longer distant. Ships floated in the clouds, some Xerian, some unknown. One ship lowered near the canyon. Its design was not from Selah's people, but not completely foreign either. It opened with a slow hiss. A figure stepped out. Tall, with silver eyes and smooth skin, a voice spoke from the figure. You awakened the source. We heard its call across the stars. Ella stepped forward. Who are youth? Figure smiled. We are the forgotten descendants of those who once served the Alliance. We kept the old ways in secret, waiting for the signal. Eli stepped beside her. Then let us not wait anymore. Let us begin again. Figure bowed, and the other ships opened. People stepped out, different, similar, all connected by light. Selah looked around, her heart full, her eyes bright. She held Eli's hand. This is not the end, she said. This is the return of what was lost. The stars above answered in silence, but it was a silence filled with song. They had brought the gift of light back to the galaxy, and the galaxy was ready to receive it. The sky above Xera turned golden as morning arrived across the sands. The canyon behind Selah and Eli now glowed with soft light. A new sun rose, and with it a new world. All around the desert, small ships landed in quiet waves. Each one carried a piece of the forgotten Alliance. Men and women of different worlds, different skin, different eyes, all drawn by the call of the source. The chamber below the canyon no longer slept. It pulsed gently like the heart of a living being. The light inside it had spread across the planet, waking old machines, old memories, old hope. Selah stood on a hill with Eli beside her. She watched as her people came forward slowly. Xerian elders, council guards, young ones with curious eyes. None carried weapons now. She stepped down to meet them, her walk calm, her face steady. She no longer needed to prove anything. Her eyes told the story now. Commander Dren stood in front, his voice unsure, his gaze lowered. He looked not at a cursed child, but at the one who had opened the star. Selah spoke with no anger in her voice. You feared what you did not understand. You turned away from what you should have protected. Dren raised his head slowly. We were wrong, he said with heavy breath. We let fear guide us, and we forgot who we were. Small girl stepped from the crowd. Her eyes were white like Selah's once were. She looked up with a question in her silence. Selah knelt, took her hand and smiled. You are not broken, you are beginning. The girl smiled back. Eli watched from the side, his hands behind his back, his eyes moving from face to face. He had seen this before on Earth, the moment when fear broke and truth entered. But here it felt deeper. Ships from the sky formed a circle around the hill. From one ship stepped the silver-eyed leader of the forgotten. She carried with her a small sphere. It floated in the air like a pearl made of fire and wind. This is the archive, she said to the crowd, the last record of the old Alliance. It holds history, language, medicine, art, everything we once shared. She placed the sphere in the center of the gathering, and the ground accepted it. From the archive rose towers of light. Each one a story, each one a piece of who they had been. Children ran through the towers laughing. Adults watched with open eyes. For many it was the first time seeing such things. For some it was memory returned. Selah turned to Eli. She held out her hand. He took it. They walked through the towers together, side by side, no longer outcasts, no longer alone people. From Earth sent messages to the sky, words of peace, requests for reunion, for rebuilding what was lost. The source had done more than shine. It had connected hearts. Selah stood on the highest peak that night. She looked up at the stars, and they felt close, not just above, but part of her. Eli joined her. He pointed at a new constellation forming above. Do you see that? Yes, she said. It looks like a bridge. He smiled. It is one, and we are standing on it, far away in the shadows of another planet. Eyes watched the light. Not all were pleased. Some had built empires on fear, on control. They saw the rising light as a threat. But the source did not fear shadows. Its strength came from unity, from truth. Selah knew this. She felt the warning, but she also felt the answer. She called a gathering the next day. People from all sides stood together. She raised her voice to the sky. We will not go back, not to silence, not to fear. We will stand together, Zirian, human all, and we will protect the light. The crowd raised their hands. The light answered. The source pulsed with a new rhythm. This was not the end. It was the first chapter of something greater. Eli turned to Selah. What will you do now? She smiled. Lead, learn, love. He laughed softly. In that order. She looked at him with warm eyes. Maybe not. The sun rose again, brighter than before, not because the sky had changed, but because the people beneath it had found their truth. They had found each other. They had found the light, and the stars above no longer sang alone.